Hello, all of you wonderful beings out there, and welcome to the stream. I am Razim, and this is DevTales, where we're going to be working on our SCAR system, or Stories and Creatures in Alternate Realities. This is a system for playing as Pokemon, Digimon, monsters from Monster Hunter, and more. It is available in open playtest via our Discord, or you can find it in you can find it all over on itch.io. What we are looking at tonight is basically the origins of magic, the start of magic in our system. We've got some ideas down already for it. However, it's very basic. So I want to refine this a little bit more. And by that I mean a lot more. So we can actually hopefully implement it this month. We can have a magical new year!
Lovely.
So, credit where credit is due. I'm kind of drawing some inspiration from Pathfinder as well as the Spheres of Power on this. I like the concept of what they put down. I want it to be a bit more loose. Just, a little bit more loose, a little bit more freeform. But I like the general idea behind those. So, go check out the Spheres of Power for anybody out there. It's a really great system for playing Pathfinder with. Highly recommended. It's a lot of fun. We're gonna get some inspiration from it while making our own thing out of it. So, as for the typings, what I am thinking on that, I do want to keep the typings around, but what I'm thinking is that there will be different types of mana for each of the types in the system. And you can gather this mana, and that is what you cast with. And so each part of these different schools of magic would have the, like, say you want to cast a destruction spell, or evocation, whatever we call it, and you want to make it fire element, well, you're going to use some of your fire mana that you probably have built up.
Okay, yeah. I can see that being a thing, yeah.
And so we can have each thing use different types of mana. And I mean, there's going to be some inspiration from Magic the Gathering with that as such. But, well, a lot of things use that kind of mechanic, so...
Yeah.
Hold on. Did that duck have a... Not you. You.
Oh, good. We can set up the magic system so that you literally play in 2 Novas and end your turn.
Oh, God. No. Also, yes, this duck has a hello, my name is Razim TTV. Yeah, we've got Duck Sim, or Placid Plastic Duck Simulator going because ducks.
Yay,
It's mostly
ducks.
something to look at while thinking and such.
Also, I have swapped to duck.
Excellent.
Duck.
And I'm currently set up so you guys can TF me live here on stream.
Subtle.
But okay, so would maybe having a magic affinity chart kind of in parallel to um the weakness chart perhaps be a thing?
What do you mean by that?
Like certain elements being better at, say, destruction or restoration or protection or other such things. Like not
I would say so.
necessarily. Huh?
I would say yes.
Yeah, not necessarily like blocking off to where like you can't necessarily do that school of magic with quote unquote the wrong element. But maybe that it works better with certain elements.
Well, I don't have the ability to read up on the spheres of power right this second, but my understanding was kind of that right, everything's gonna fall, I guess, whatever. My understanding was that each quote unquote type is going to have a specified function as a magic system that you can uh, develop into, as well as a shape and a couple of other things. And that's kind of the intended purpose. So, like for example, like going into, for example, fire, you're probably looking at things that are destruction or rebirth or other classical
Yeah.
traits associated to fire.
I think
I'm finding it interesting. Good.
I think what we might go with, because like there is so much potential of what we could do with this, and that's kind of the hard part, is figuring out which route to take. Like we could go with words of power. We could go with something much more close to the spheres of power. We can go with the mana system, kind of like how magic works. MTG works. I'm
I think my main concern at this point is more so what would be the best for the sense of progression for the player.
I have feedback on that.
okay.
I'm really liking what the spear power looks like to me. I may be looking at this wrong, but the idea of like power, guile, might, and using champion of spears, it just kind of seems like they're just basically putting in the 4 categories, and power being your usual magic usage, what you would think in wizards and stuff like that, casting fire, casting like protection and stuff, like from a staff or something. While guile was more of like you're
Rex.
basically using the. Can I? What's up?
The guile is.
I didn't get to even say what guile was.
Those are something different.
I know.
We're looking at spheres of power itself.
I see. Well, to finish what I was trying to say, I just like the idea of like the magic system being categorized in the basically the idea of there is magic that is used from say your staff or like you're using from that. There's magic that's basically the magic of pretty much vocation almost like it is like charisma magic. It is the magic of like making stuff like herbs, making mechanics, making things like that, but it's still kind of like in a magic system, like you're creating it. And then might does the magic of like kung fu. It's the stuff that comes from the self, like you're basically it comes from within kind of deal. So
Muscle wizard.
Yeah, might magic, I guess. But basically, that is going to be in a magic in its own kind of way. And then there's the last one. It's like hybrid. It's a combination of both. Well, like you say, say the Kung Fu dude could throw a fireball, but it comes from chi within himself. So it lets it be more freeform, like what it seems like the Scar System's about, making it where you can make your own thing. You know?
Yeah, hear me out then. As an idea, have it be like, just set up a list of different concepts that are acceptable to be used, and have it be pick a certain quantity of those concepts. And like just have it be very open for people to like flavor it however they want.
Yeah, I like the idea of it being structured, and then it could be flavored how you want. I'm looking at the Spear Power wiki and just trying to like read from it. And from what it sounds like, one's about regular magic, and then mental magic, and then like kung fu magic, like the stuff from within self that you can use to make your own, and then a mix between all of them. All right, then explain.
The spheres of power is magic. Spheres of guile are about various skills, about being able to perform, about... It's meant to expand on existing systems to give you more freeform ability to use them, rather than just a simple... It's not magic.
I see.
Spheres of might are things like, if you look on there, boxing, dual wielding, being a berserker, beast mastery, a lancer, gladiator, fencing. It's not magic at all. And then that fourth one that you're looking at the top, champions of the spheres, those are the classes that utilize the spheres of power.
I see.
And all the other spheres.
Well, in that case, the way I was looking at it, I guess the idea of magic system being put into like 4 categories sounds neat to me. Then, if it was the idea of magic that's, used more conventionally, magic that's used, but it's used in a sciencey way. Like, it's people who like make magic out of herbs and make like a voodoo thing. They use voodoo dolls and conduits like that. That's the conduit stuff. And then magic that comes from within oneself, that'd be more, your stereotypical Street Fighter throwing Hadoukens from like, or Kamehamehas from Dragon Ball Z or something. Like, it comes from the chi within. Three categories right there, I think would be neat to have. And then a fourth that just combines that if needed. But yeah, you're right. I'm not looking at this correctly. The spear of might, guile, and power. I'm looking at them as 4 different spear sets that explain what magic is. I guess that's not what it is. But yeah, I think that's a neat idea though. What I'm explaining, just different ways of doing magic, and then naming them.
Yeah, but I feel that seems more like a class system than a school system.
That's fair.
So, building off of Vari's idea of concepts earlier, what I'm kind of thinking a possibility is, as you invest into a specific magic type, you basically get quote-unquote keywords, and these keywords you can choose to empower your spells in various ways. So this could be like ways that you apply destructive power or destructive magic to the battlefield, or getting access to destructive magic, or getting access to creating certain shapes of elements. Like you put in so much XP into this, and you can purchase keywords, and those keywords are how you can flavor your usage of magic and describe what you're doing.
Yeah, At well, I used to do a lot of LARPing. It's running around in the
Why am I
woods.
not surprised, Vari?
Running around in the woods, beating on people with padded sticks and such,
Hey, I've done
throwing
it too.
throwing packets of birdseed at people.
Wait, you had padded sticks? We just used
Uh-huh.
unpadded sticks.
But
Another
anyways,
world.
I very often would play a caster type at said LARPs, and one thing that was a fairly common concept was the concept of a generalist mage. You had like a little bit of weak spells of all sorts of different types, and that might be a good idea to have for the system. Is have like the introductory of each sphere or uh, school as a you start as a generalist, perhaps. And then as you progress, you can branch out and do more interesting things.
I'm trying to
And
think on that.
Yeah, I mean, in general, it sounds like a good idea, but it's like,
yeah, well, like it would be a lot of thought to put together like a basic spell list. But
yeah,
having
because kind of what I'm envisioning from the way you're explaining this is like, let let's say I'm just going to keep going with fire. Let's say you're aspecting into the magic of fire typing, and you know at the very early level of your progression, you just get very basic access. Like maybe you can light a candle, or you can warm warm people up slightly. You know, very basic stuff like that. Um,
well, okay. So let me explain more out of how the system worked there at the LARPs that I used to play. Okay, so there to begin with are two different overarching schools of magic of earthen magic and celestial magic, where earthen is uh, the moral magics, the life, death, law, and chaos. Whereas celestial magic is more the elemental aspects of magic and the conceptual aspects of magic, like confining magic and um, various other things like that. The more eldritch aspects. But yeah. So as a celestial generalist, you got like your basic protection spells, mage armor, and uh, like fumble spells and disarm and destroy, or rather shatter for celestial. Um, uh, but in order to use the more advanced elemental magic, well, you got like a couple as a generalist. You could like do flame bolts, you could do ice bolts, uh, lightning bolts. But in order to do anything more advanced than that, you had to specialize into being an elementalist. And as an elementalist, you could pick up everything from elemental dart spells to elemental blast spells. And, yeah. They were kind of the damage dealer casters. Whereas, one of the other specialties for Celestial was the Confinist, which, they had all of the incapacitation spells. Web, imprison, bind, stuff like that. And Shackle. Shackle was a fun one. That kept extraplanar creatures from being able to phase. But, yeah.
That's feeling a little too simple to me.
Yeah, yeah.
For what we're wanting to do here.
Yeah. But more the concept I was wanting to suggest though was the going with there being a basic starting point at which everyone can branch out from. Or something like that.
Repeat that, please?
The concept that I was wanting to impart was the having a basic starting point from which everyone can branch out from.
My brain goes to the casting, whether it's like verbal or what you're casting with is a material item. You have to like stay in one spot, or if you can move while you're doing it. And then it gets to all the schools.
I mean, well, I'm not even necessarily that, just more the, I don't know. Hmm.
I'm gonna have to drop out here. I'm starting to get sleepy, unfortunately.
Oh,
That's alright. Rest well.
Understandable.
Thank you kindly, everyone. Good luck with the magic argument.
alright. Good night.
Good night.
Hmm.
I am thinking that the best way to go about this would be to have type, not bind anything to specific types.
Mm-hmm.
Simply because we cannot. I have no idea what we would come up with to give them all useful spells.
Yeah.
Or unique spells, rather. Like, obviously, we
that's
can give them, useful spells. It's just they're going to wind up being a lot of the same thing over and over.
Yeah, so that's why I'm thinking a generalist spell list as a starting point would be a good thing.
We can absolutely have some cantrip style things that they can get access to at, very basically. Yeah, we can have a generalist set up with that. But then for more advanced spells, we're going to get into things of different schools. And the schools could be combined together.
Yeah, I would like to note that I would be incredibly excited to recreate a character from my past that might dabble in a little bit of restoration and a little bit of necromancy. Because, yeah, that's a fun combination.
Oh, yeah. Do they still have... Okay, so it looks like Pathfinder 2nd edition... So 2nd edition, I know, went away from the D&D stuff that was too... Oh, what the heck is this? Well, I know 2nd edition went away from, you know, D&D on a lot of terminology. Like, they basically rebranded the Paladin as a champion. In order to, you know, avoid using things that basically D&D owns. So I was trying to look up what their schools are and what they did with this sort of thing, and well, clearly they've gone with... They've got School of Ars Grammatica, Battle Magic, Civic Wizardry, Mentalism, Protean Form, The Boundary, and Unified Magical Theory.
What the shit?
It just seems like everybody trying to make different synonyms for the same basic things that we've all lived with forever. I don't know if you're trying to do that or just like make it seem like actually have a system that's you can create something with and explains how magic works and what can happen when you don't do it right or how it rolls. Because I can tell you all the basics already, but I'm not sure what you're trying to go for here. Are you trying to be like them and just make necromancy into witching or hocus pocusing or some weird name or conjuration into the makening battle maker or whatever? Like,
No.
I was like, that's okay. I'm for schools being the simpler the better. Avocation, the enchantment one, the illusion one, the transmutation one. That seems to cover all your bases, really.
Except that copyright.
Yeah.
Okay, so I gave a quick skim over the spheres of power. If I'm understanding this correctly, you can choose a sphere of power, and that gives you like a very basic thing that it specifically does. Like, for example, alteration, you get shapeshifting. And then as you get more levels and get more abilities, you can dive into traits that enhance that base ability. Do I understand it correctly?
Basically, yes.
Okay. So the problem here then is that with the idea of types, it's difficult to come up with things that make sense for the types to do, that cover all the things that magic should be able to do, where it makes sense and doesn't really have overlap.
Correct, because we don't want it to be pointless for them to go into, fire and, say, light, when they just have a whole bunch of overlap.
Okay, well, I will point out the spheres of power. It was like 22. Granted, there was a sphere of power for bear, which is very fascinating. The bear sphere of power.
That one's a meme. There's a couple of meme ones in there. Like if you go,
My favorite spell casting class is bear.
yeah.
Huh. I'd go with that one.
That one is very much, as it says at the top, it was released as an April Fool's product.
Angry bear noises.
I cast bear. Right, shouldn't you be going to bed? It's kind of late.
I'm good.
It's like almost 4:30, Rex.
If you really want me to leave, Rajan, I'll go.
We want you to take care of yourself.
Yeah, like
Rex, I just want you to take. Never mind. I'm sorry, Rex.
I feel that it's kind of like me yelling at Viv to go to bed. It's
Yeah. I'm literally being told as the streamer go to bed by streamers and people that stay up all night. So it's like, oh, this is funny. I feel the care, but I'm fine. I know when I need to sleep.
Anyway, I do still kind of want to lean towards. It'll take me a little bit to get off of the idea of relating it to the types. Though now that I understand, like I took a glance at the spheres and understand it a little bit better, instead of literally the types, it could be things that the types can conceptually represent. Like how fire conceptually represents destruction, lightning, well, I would say probably more like sonic conceptually represents kinetic force, things like that.
well, yeah. I think one to consider that is one that is very much so not really tied to any particular type would be protection.
Hmm.
Uh,
Well, I
Let's do
mean,
it.
there's a couple that you could probably think of, like the steel type, earth type could probably, well, you could probably justify that to some extent, but
Right.
when we're talking like immaterial barriers, that's not really something that. I mean, I guess you could do it.
I mean, we have astral, we have mythic, we have nature. Those are very metaphysical concepts that could be correlated to life or protection.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna tell them that, I guess.
Like, there's plenty of metaphysical concepts within the typings that we can correlate them to, metaphysical spellcasting components. We're not in any particular shortage of that thing.
Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's the right path to take to go with calling all of our schools or such. I don't think it's the right path to go attributing each one to a type.
Okay. In that case, how about start developing a list of necessary core components of what a spellcasting system should offer, bare minimum. And then from there, find ways to describe it. in ways that are not explicitly Wizards of the Coast.
That's what I was thinking to break down to its core. Like, what is necromancy? The idea of reviving dead stuff. What is conjuration? The ideas of making stuff appear. Transmutation, the idea of changing stuff into other stuff. And the, yeah. Enchantment, making stuff stronger. And then go from there.
That's not actually, enchantment is more,
Oh, I guess you're right. Making things do
manipulation
stuff?
of the mind.
No, wouldn't that be illusion?
No.
You're making stuff just seem like other stuff. And that's like a core school is making stuff seem like other stuff.
Enchantments
Well, certain
affect the minds and emotions of other creatures. Sometimes to influence and control them, and other times to bolster them to greater heights of courage.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of morale boost things are enchantment.
That makes sense. What is enchanting but making something stronger, whether it's someone's morale or someone's drink? I'm enchanting your drink with a little extra liquor. There you go. It's enchanted now.
And no, that would be transmutation.
Ah, dang it. Well, you're not really changing your drink into something else. You're adding to, well,
You gotta start somewhere. So, yeah, it's, if you're making it better in any way, you're transmuting it.
What makes divination so different then? I don't understand that
that's, usually, seeing into the future or the past.
one. What?
Or
That's an interesting
looking
skill.
at other locations that may be far away.
Yeah.
Oh, like scrying? It's a
Yes.
scrying thing?
Yeah, that would be divination.
Oh, really? Balance.
Divination also helps you with divination also allows you to see things as they actually are instead of whatever disguises they may have.
Wait, what? It can
True sight.
true sight. Kind of goes with the illusion then. That kind of counters it. I thought that'd be an illusion thing instead for true sight for that stuff. Huh. Man,
I mean, making a disguise would be illusion. Seeing through the disguise would be divination.
So it's like a perception type deal. Okay.
And yeah, the divination and illusion are kind of two sides of the same coin. They're
That's what I
the
was thinking.
perception magics. Though there is some divination that does some other things, like True Strike is a divination spell. Making sure that you
First
hit
strike is
exactly
effectively a form of prediction.
No.
Uh-huh.
You magically predict where you need to strike.
Yeah.
What? Magically predict. We were getting hyped for a second, like, oh, it's like making a read on somebody and punch them in the nose. I guess it's you're magically figuring out what you need to hit, and the spot just glows, I guess, so you can kind of see with magic. True strike.
Yeah, it's a really nice spell in Pathfinder, and it's okay in D&D, but Some argue that it's kind of a waste.
So
And
just to
5th
kind of,
edition is just not worth the action economy, unfortunately.
that's the thing I'm interested about is the actions, the economy, what's it going to take to use the move, what could happen if you don't use the move properly. And on a random note, I guess squirrels are learning conjuration, huh? Possibly. If you were to pick a skull from what I'm seeing around. Golems, right? That's conjuration?
I believe it falls more under
Some systems, yeah, it's either transmutation because you're transmuting non-living materials into living materials, or some systems will call golem into its own thing.
Oh, so that's where it gets all messy a little bit there, huh? From the sound of it. What are you thinking you want to do with the scar system then when it comes to that?
Conjuration is specifically like summoning or creating things out of nothing, or dipping into the Fey realm at times. Because a lot of the things that you summon, you're not literally summoning like creatures, but you summon things that take the form of those creatures.
I see what you're saying.
While transmutation is turning one thing into another thing.
Okay, like you're using is the difference between using alchemy and summoning something from a freaking circle? You made a symbol and you're using some kind of other power source or ritual or something. You're not really making something, you're summoning it with magic from thin air or from the demon realm or something.
Well,
Transmutation
alchemy
is-
depends on the specific franchise. In the case of Full Metal Alchemist, what they're doing is actually more what they're doing is transmutation, straight up. In fact, I think they call them transmutation circles.
Yeah.
If I recall.
Yeah. Because it's equivalent.
They call it alchemy, but for most systems, alchemy is about potions rather than that.
And alchemy can also turn into, I mean, alchemy is more like a focus, so it can utilize any class for the most part. For example, a potion that shields you would be an abjuration potion. And if you're using alchemy to design that, then you're using alchemy to utilize the Skull of Magic for abjuration. But this comes down to like two different sorts of the definition of alchemy.
This would be an interesting thing to write down and decide upon how we want to go about it, because that's interesting. Also, hey, I hope that helps. I just found that something that seemed a bit odd how that kind of correlated with each other. I wasn't sure exactly, but that makes more sense. I should put it that way.
So, I do believe that I unfortunately have to get to work. So,
Good luck with work.
Have a good one. Thanks for joining.
I'll try to. Sorry I couldn't be of much more help.
Not a problem.
Anyways, talk to y'all later.
See ya.
See ya. Well, shoot. I'm definitely not going to carry this with my own thoughts. That was probably the best I could bring right there, is talking about that idea.
I mean, the thing is, right now, what we're looking at is trying to create the categories for the purposes of the spells and what they do, not the vessels in which you utilize them, if that makes sense.
That does. I was trying to think of what it would be for like starting out on a magic system and how to make it where it's free form. But yeah, I get you're trying to get the schools down. And that is with how I just heard about alchemy and transmutation and conjuration. Yeah, definitely important to get that down, at least how it's going to work in the scar system. I am all for everything being all elemental, like everything for every element everywhere, so it's not locked down to anything. Um, hmm. I mean, I say we just pick one and focus on what we'd want to name it. Like, for instance, transmutation. What would we want to name that in the Scar? That is not just transmutation, but is the same concept of making stuff using stuff. Think that'd be a good start, huh? Since, yeah, we have something that's gonna be using that pretty soon, actually. Golems.
Well, we're not going to focus on just one. We want to make the whole system.
Oh, of course. That doesn't mean just so we can have the name down, because you want to have it be a different name than transmutation, right?
Right now I'm trying to decide about that, which is going to probably require research that would probably be better done off stream. Because there's legalities involved. Like, necromancy, I feel like we are very safe in using that.
Yeah.
At this point, while yes, Wizards of the Coast uses it, so does, like,
Everyone.
yeah, everyone.
That's
Like
that's my problem
90%
with
of
this.
video games.
Yeah,
But
look at
things
this
that
and-
are... But when it comes to things that are more unique, that... Like, necromancy is so broadly used that I feel safe using it. However, transmutation is not as broadly used. Divination, abjuration, those are not as broadly used. You don't really see, you know, you see necromancer in a lot of games, but the ones that just have generic mages, call them mage or wizard or sorcerer or whatever term they use, it's just that instead of a diviner or an abjurationist, etc., etc.
The only thing I'd throw in is make it simpler. Transmutation, necromancy, conjuration, just combine it to creation and just go from there. You can start going into detail what they're about and not have to worry about creation. No one's gonna get mad over you using creation. And then you go into detail like, okay, now this is what it's about. You can do creation with, you know, transmuting things and from things to other things, or conjuring something from a circle.
That's a little too broad.
Creation's too broad.
At least if we're putting that much under it.
3 things, but they're things that are pretty similar to me. Necromancy is just creating things from skeletons, dead bodies, the dead. And it's deeper than I know, but that's the gist of necromancy. It's creation with the dead and unalive stuff. Conjuration is what we just talked about. Just trying to simplify it and have something that works for it. But you're right, it's probably gonna take a little bit of off-stream stuff.
I mean, classically, I don't think any schools technically dabble in creation because it's all manipulation between the realms. Like, even conjuration, which is literally summoning, isn't creating things out of nothing. You're pulling from the Fey realm or other realms.
I agree. I was more saying like.
I mean, I guess there's Wish, but there's also a reason why Wish is Wish. But actually, offhand, I don't know what Wish is. Is it transmutation? Do you know them?
I have no idea. I feel like it's divination.
It might be divination.
Don't make me want
That's
to play
the only
Baldur's
thing
Gate.
that. It's the only thing that comes to mind for me that is actual has the potential for actual creation.
Raijin, it's a 9th level conjuration. I just looked it up. For Wish.
Oh, it is conjuration.
Yeah. Instantaneous self-use, 1 action. Sorcerer wizards use it apparently.
Well, on the other hand,
Jesus.
it is also 9th level, so I suppose it makes sense that it wouldn't be until 9th level spellcasting that you have the ability to actually create something out of nothing.
By simply speaking aloud, you can alter the very foundations of reality. Holy moly, this thing is OP, but it is 9th level. I guess that's pretty high up there, huh? How many levels are there?
Rex, if you do it like that, then you have a risk of never being able to cast Wish again.
What?
The only way you can safely use Wish without losing your ability to cast Wish is to use it to just cast any other spell.
Really?
If you do something that alters reality in any way whatsoever or create something from nothing, then you have to roll a chance die to see if you're allowed to keep Wish as a spell you know. And if you fail, then you can never cast Wish again.
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot
Like
of rules.
there's a reason why it's like basically the most powerful spell. It also has the most powerful draw.
Understandable.
There's also an 8th level conjuration spell. What's it called? It's not doppelganger, but it's the one that creates a doppelganger. I don't know if that is creating it from literally nothing. I'm pretty sure you require materials to do that, so it's technically not creating things from nothing. But either way, actual fundamental creation it's not easy. It's not something very many wizards can even come close to aspiring to. Necromancy, like, you still need the functional mass of everything that you're trying to raise from the dead, and the entirety of the necromancy school is that you're tapping into whatever realm where the souls of the lost are to animate the dead. Like, to be able to actually create things, you need to be on the level of being a god. But usually, if you're on the level of being a god, you have limitations to what you can do with your powers.
That makes sense. Not quite a god. That sounds like warlock stuff. I'm thinking about it. Warlocks
Typically don't get access to very high level powers. They just devote themselves to a patron deity.
yeah, their magic
So
comes
they
from
are
a
in
higher
contact
power. Yeah.
Yes, they are in contact with a god, but so are clerics and paladins.
Yeah, true. They believe in their own gods.
Just like how Asher is my patron deity.
No. All hell Asher. A wizard or sorcerer, power comes from themselves. No, sorcerer.
The
Power comes
difference
from
between
within.
sorcerers and wizards is that
Wizards read a book, right? They're book read, ain't they?
wizards learn how to cast their power through training, and sorcerers are innately born with it.
Got you.
At least in terms of Dungeons and Dragons. Other systems probably delineate somehow.
Oh yeah, there's all sorts of different casting classes. In my opinion, if we were to lock in that idea, it wouldn't be called Warlock, Sorcerer, Wizard. It'd be the actual idea of it. So you can kind of put your character in there because there's so many things that could be put in there for whatever world you're in. But I like the idea of like that concept, like magic that comes from a higher power, magic that comes from within self, magic that comes from learning it. And then magic comes from awesome like guitar skills,
I'm-
like a bard.
well, all of that. Those are just the source of how you obtain the ability to use your power. Like that functionally doesn't really mean anything for what the power itself is.
Gotcha. We need the school. We need the power.
So here's a question for you, Zen, that's worth considering. Do you want to have limitations on elemental effectiveness akin to how Fireball is classically the most destructive evocation spell that you can, like, not the most, but it's the fire casting in general is the most destructive evocation? Or do you want it to be like you can make similarly leveled destructive magic and healing magic and all this with any element or type, like how we have the moves?
I definitely want to go the broader option of they can make it any type.
Okay.
What I'm currently thinking is that they pull together they pull together mana of different types. You know, mana, there will be mana associated with each of the types. And then there will be basic mana, which, you know, basic is one of the types, but the way it'll work is that each type could add its own flair to the spell if you use that mana type. Like for Fireball, you would probably use the shape of you know, explosive sphere. Would be the general shape of it, and that's probably the spell that you're casting. If you just use it with the broadly available basic energy, basic mana, well, it's just gonna do bludgeoning, slashing, or piercing damage, however you want to flavor that. However, if you were to put some fire mana into it, like for each point of fire mana that you put into that, you get, say, 1 point of fire burn on them each turn, in addition to doing damage.
Let's say we have one of the quote-unquote spheres. It's basically, regardless of what name we choose, it's effectively well, crap. I was going to say Magic Missile, but Magic Missile does technically have a unique trait to it. But it's just a very basic, untyped Arcane Blast that just hits one person. And then, let's say you add Fire Mana to it, then you're turning it into, you know, a fire-aspected Arcane Blast that also has the chance of burning or something, right?
Basically, yeah.
And then on top of that, if you dive deeper into this Arcane Blast sphere, you also can choose traits that it has. So you could actually, you know, get the Seeking trait, which would literally turn it into Magic Missile. Among other things, like, I guess we would tie AoE into this as one of the traits that you could pick up within the sphere.
Exactly.
Okay. So, do we want to take words that have function already in English, such as destruction, which would be probably your Arcane Blast? I'm sure we can come up with more words, but basically just alternatives to, you know, the words that are used as the spheres of power, or words that are alternatives to the overall classes? Or do we want to have like a unique naming structure that is basically only applicable to our games? Like, you know, I don't know, everything is Ars something. Ars Blasticum, Ars Restoratum, Ars Arfum. That's the spell that makes you go bark.
Oh, nice.
Sorry, run that by me again. And hey, Raharu.
Good morning, Raharu. What I was saying is, do we want to use English words to describe all of these? Like destruction and some alternative to restoration, like just healing or I don't know, something like that, summoning, etc. Do we want to use English words that describe what the spell or what the sphere does? Or would we want to possibly design unique terminology that only exists within our system?
I was kind of thinking maybe utilizing Latin. So an existing language, but, you know, Latin itself really feels like you're casting a spell when you say a lot of the words in Latin. But that's just my kind of that's just my general idea on that.
Yeah, I mean, as long as it sounds pretty close. I mean, the Latin word for evoke is evocare, but yeah, does sound kind of magical sounding. Evocare, to call upon. I just don't want it to alienate people not knowing what stuff means or whatnot. It gets a little too crazy, but yeah, if it sounds close enough, could work.
Okay, so in that case, I would say getting the specific names down can be handled a little bit later, because that just comes down to finding a naming system. So we're going to want an arcane blast. We're obviously going to want what about transformation? Do we want to set it up in a way that's unique to the primeval power of transformation, or do we want to just leave it to the primeval feature?
Honestly, I think we'll probably leave that where it is. But we could later on move the shape-shifting primeval feature into the magic system itself. But I also kind of like having it by itself.
Yeah, it's a feature.
Do we want oh, this almost break. 1 second.
Sadly, I'm hitting my deadline. I'm gonna have to bounce. I looked up mutatio as mutatio as to what transform means in Latin. But yeah, I think that's probably the best way to go about it. Is just ask what you want, what you don't want, and just kind of build upon it. So there's a focus. Yeah. Good luck with all the magic stuff. I hope y'all get something down. It seems like you're going down a pretty good road to actually getting it down now, so keep going. I wish y'all luck. I sadly have to go to sleep.
Sleep well. I actually think I might go ahead and call the stream here. Because a lot of this is just going to be typing things out that and looking things up, and I don't think that's going to be very entertaining for the stream. At least at this point.
Oh.
We kind of got all the discussion out of the way, which is the interesting stuff. But now that I've got an idea of where to go with it, it's just typing.
Fair. Glad I could be here for the whole thing, I guess, in that case. I made it through an entire Scar dev session, I guess. Wasn't meaning to. I was just going to leave it 5 either way. Good night, everybody.
Good night. But yeah, thank you everybody for joining us today for this stream. That was DevTales. Relatively short, but we got some good information, some good baselines set up that I can then develop from here. But anyways, check out our website, zgfgaming.com. We got links for our Discord, Telegram, Mastodon, Blue Sky, Patreon, and more. They are on the website as well as down in the description below through our link tree. Thank you to my patrons, tippers, and subscribers. It is your support that keeps this channel alive and going. I cannot do this without your guys' help and your support, so thank you. Consider becoming a patron over at patreon.com/zgfgaming. It's one of the best ways to support the channel, though you can also do so by sharing the stream around, as well as coming by, hanging out, grabbing packs of cards to stream loots, picking up some merch over at zgfgaming.store, or by subscribing to us over on Streamloots. But for now, thank you so much for joining. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube, and I bid you all the most fondest adieu.
Have a good night.